welcome here, everyone. Hi, this is Hepzi here from the Mumbai chapter of the Network of Women in Media, India. Welcome here for the fourth session of the Maharashtra Election Series 2024, where we try to understand the Maharashtra elections from a much better light. Today, we are looking at the Mumbai region. Though Mumbai city has only 36 of the total 288 seats in Maharashtra, just 12.5% of the total seats in the state. It holds a significant place in Maharashtra elections. The financial capital of India not just controls the richest municipal corporation in India, but also boasts of having India's leading financial institutions, the stock exchanges, the SEBI, the diamond markets, the Hindi film industry, better known as Bollywood, etc., etc. Not surprisingly, all political parties would like to have a piece of this pie. It is in this background that the issue of shifting of the diamond markets and the declining influence of the Marathi Manus in Mumbai remains an emotive issue here. So life in Mumbai is far from ideal. The pothole roads continue to be choked with traffic jams. Even the coastal road underground tunnels have started getting traffic jams. The train services continue to be overcrowded. The air is polluted. The water supply lines keep bursting regularly, and flooding continues to be a regular issue every monsoon. Housing continues to be unaffordable, and living conditions continue to be poor, with half the population still living in slums. Basic things like clean air, clean water, and clean surroundings continue to stay a major concern. Yet all this doesn't get reflected in election issues. Instead, what get highlighted or emphasized are the big ticket aspirational projects that promise solutions. Massive infrastructure upgradation is underway. Akansha, can you keep changing to the next slide?
Sure.
Is underway to improve the standard of living for the 1.2 crore population here, particularly for its transportation and commute. The city has been launching car-centric planning with the vengeance, ignoring cheap, affordable transportation solutions. Next slide. Yeah, next slide. Yeah. To help us understand what these big ticket projects mean for the city and its people, today we have Shweta Wagh with us. Shweta is an architect, urban researcher, and associate professor at the Kamla Raheja Vidyanidhi Institute of Architecture. Shweta is also a founding member of Collective for Spatial Alternatives, a planning research and advocacy collective, and has been engaged with various communities on urban policy and planning related issues. Welcome here, Shweta. Can you please share on what do you think these ticket projects, big ticket projects mean for the city and its people? How do you think these projects will impact the city in the short and the long term?
Sure. I have a presentation. So should I share my screen?
Yes. Shweta, we are not able to see your PPT.
Oh, you're not able to see it? I just shared the screen. 1 second. Let's do it again.
Yes, now we can.
Is it visible now? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, my presentation is titled Infrastructure and Public Interest. In this presentation, I would like to highlight the following points. We already know some of these things, but it is important to emphasize them. In most cases, projects are not in the public interest. However, they are justified as being in the public interest. The studies proposed by hired consultants, whether they are private or government, are aimed at simply justifying projects rather than assessing them. The government also spends a lot of money and resources to manage opposition rather than to hear or consider them. And the spaces of public debate are deliberately being shrunk, which means that citizens can only play the role of policing projects rather than engaging with questions of policy and planning. So, in the first section of my presentation, I'll look at this question of what is public interest. If Mumbai is really to address its mobility problems, the most effective and least expensive way would be to invest in public transport modes and to simultaneously discourage private transport. A more expensive and less effective way will be to invest in mass rail transit infrastructure like the metro that does not affect private vehicle use very much. The most expensive and counterproductive way to invest in car oriented projects that induce private vehicular traffic, such as sea links, flyovers, coastal roads, and so on. The story of investment over the past 3 decades has been in the opposite direction. There is investment and privatization of public transport, heavy investment in the metro system, and maximum spending on car centric projects. So we can draw one of the two conclusions. Either the authorities and transport planners don't know what they are doing, or that transport policy is driven by a different purpose entirely. The current government has announced multiple projects, each more absurd than the previous one. There is the MMRDA Ring Road Plan. There are tunnels proposed again for private cars under the SGNP. Two parallel freeways in the northern western suburbs, the Warsaw Dahisar Coastal Road and the Warsaw Virar Sea Link. This shows a complete lack of transparency in transport planning. The planning process is driven not by addressing socio-environmental priorities, but are driven by the ease of doing business, oriented towards the interests of contractors, car owners, real estate speculators, rather than environmental and social well-being of communities and common people. The studies conducted and what they claim are also misleading. For example, the Joint Technical Committee report for the coastal road had tried to justify the project by arguing that a reclaimed option for the coastal road would be cheaper than a road on stilts. However, from this slide, it is evident that although the first phase of the coastal road project has been built, its cost has substantially gone up and its cost per kilometer is now much higher than the sea link, which is being constructed by the MSRDC. Although it is evident that these projects involve anything but the public's interest, they are often rationalized as being in the public interest. In fact, in an interview aired on national television some years ago, the State Environment Minister Aditya Thackeray referred to Mumbai's controversial coastal road project as a sustainable infrastructure project. The car only 8-lane freeway, he said, would be a carbon neutral road, and by creating 96 hectares of green open space that will consist of holding ponds, percolation tanks, even an urban forest, it will become a carbon sink for the city. I now come to the second part of my presentation where I will just talk about studies that are used to justify some of these projects. The fisherfolk of Worli got the first glimpse of the Coastal Road project when the soil testing began in 2018. The project was conceptualized in 2011 and planned in 2015, yet there was no consultation with the community that was likely to be most grievously affected by the project. The fisherfolk also had no idea that the coastal road would reclaim 90 hectares of land from an area of the sea where they carried out their fishing activities. Multiple petitions were filed against the Coastal Road project, and almost all of them pointed out that adequate studies had not been undertaken before the commencement of work. On February 2019, two fisherfolk organizations in Worli filed a writ petition in the Bombay High Court claiming that the area where the road was being constructed was their fishing zone. Both the environmental and social impact assessment for the project were ignorant of the existence of fishing activity in the Worli area. There were no detailed baseline studies of corals, coastal and marine ecosystems, nor was there any study of foreshore or nearshore fishing activity. A detailed fisheries survey would have required 1 full year, which is why the BMC avoided such a survey and commenced with the work. We therefore had to conduct a study of intertidal and subtidal fishing practices in the area to show the existence and the likely impacts on fishing activity. On 8th March 2019, the study was released in a press conference at the Mumbai Marathi Patrakar Sangh and then tendered in court during the next hearing. The High Court judges questioned the BMC and demanded to know how it could begin reclamation work without identifying fishing zones and livelihoods of coastal communities. The lawyers representing the BMC initially tried to deny the existence of fishing altogether. After citizens-led studies that documented small-scale fisheries in Worli were presented before the court, it demanded an independent assessment by a government agency such as the Central Marine Fisheries Institute. The CMFRI undertook a rapid assessment of the area and validated our findings, acknowledged the existence of fishing activity. However, BMC then tried to suppress this CMFRI report. Later, BMC appointed institutions such as the CMFRI and NIO to carry out post facto studies, which again underplayed livelihood losses and the ecological significance of the area. These studies diminished the findings of citizen researchers as either not significant or credible because they were not quantitative. The new official CMFRI report contradicted the earlier rapid survey conducted by the same institution, concluding that the nearshore area could not be considered as a major fishing ground due to low fish abundance and a low quality of high value fishes. Similarly, the NIO study also undermined citizen studies, arguing that small, minuscule patches of coral existed and the existing colonies could be translocated elsewhere along the shore. They also proposed mitigation measures such as the use of eco concrete, where biodiversity would thrive. I will now talk about how the government also tries to manage opposition or resistance to such infrastructure projects. As you can see in the older image of Worli Bandar, the fisherfolk had to navigate through the pillars of the Bandra Worli ceiling. The span between the columns of the ceiling is approximately 30 meters. When the fisherfolk saw the drawings of the new coastal road interchange in 2018, they realized that there will be a series of columns of 30 meters and 60 meters spans through which they would have to navigate their boats in highly choppy waters. Therefore, they demanded that a span of 200 meters should be provided for safe passage or safe navigation. The failure to hear citizens' concerns led to a faulty design that could have been corrected later, that would have to be corrected later at a great cost and delay. The BMC engineers had designed the span without considering the fact that the bridge is situated in the open sea, subject to strong waves and currents, and during stormy weather, boats get thrown off course and may collide with either the rocks or pillars. After being repeatedly ignored by the BMC and local representatives, the fisherfolk had no other option now but to take matters in their own hands, so they decided to block the work till their demands were met. On 30th October 2021, they occupied the shallow area off the coast of Worli to obstruct the construction on a section of the Mumbai's coastal road project. It was impossible for the fisherfolk to protest on land for the fear of being arrested. However, in the sea, they were at an advantage. They surrounded the temporary jetty, preventing the contractors from operating their barges. Their boats remained parked in the sea for over 2 months, preventing construction work on the interchange from being carried out, and the protest was widely covered in mainstream media. The government then tried to settle the issue by offering them monetary compensation. However, the stand of the fishers was very clear. Their access to fishing grounds and their right to continue their occupation was a must. And unless the span between the columns was increased, they would not allow work on the interchange to continue. While reclamation had irreversibly destroyed intertidal ecosystems and fishing, the navigation route to the open sea was the last straw for the fishers to be able to continue their traditional occupation. The government then resorted to intimidation tactics. Large numbers of police were posted at the jetty, and the main organizers of the protests were threatened with arrest. The BMC refused to acknowledge their practical knowledge and experience. The municipal commissioner suggested that demand for redesigning the span would involve considerable additional expense and needed to be substantiated by an independent assessment. The fisherfolk were asked to suggest a qualified institute to review the situation. However, When mistrustful of government institutions, when the fisherfolk consulted a coastal geomorphologist for an independent study, which concluded that a minimum span of 160 meters would be required, the study was sent to NIO again for review, and NIO maintained that the span provided by the BMC was adequate. BMC also went on to suggest cladding over the pillars, minimizing impact during collisions, CCTVs for prompt accident response, and an insurance cover in case of accidents. The fisherfolk, outraged by these propositions, were outraged by these propositions. The issue became politicized and was brought up by opposition leaders during the assembly before the elections. In June 2022, the fisherfolk approached the new chief minister requesting him to intervene in the navigation route issue. Representatives from the CM's office visited the site, and a technical committee was set up, which included NIO representatives, representatives of the fisherfolk, and members of the community. The members unanimously decided that a navigation span should be increased to 120 meters. This whole episode goes on to show that infrastructure planning in Mumbai is highly oblivious of ground realities, the concerns of citizens, and the real needs of the city. When citizens bring up their concerns after they realize what is going on, the authorities try to scuttle the opposition by either threatening them or paying them off. Finally, I would like to point out that the spaces for public debate in the city are shrinking. A few years ago, ex-municipal commissioner Praveen Pardesi had remarked that projects get delayed due to too much discussion and debate, and what he termed as private activism. However, it is evident that spaces of public debate and on infrastructure and planning are shrinking. Citizens are left with no other option than to approach courts. However, once in court, the terms of debate get shifted from the policy domain to the legal domain and are narrowed down to legal categories or procedural violations. Courts generally do not encourage any discussion or debate on policy issues or larger questions. In 2020, the Bombay High Court slapped a fine of 2 lakhs on petitioners opposing the Versova Bridge, which argued that multiple bridges proposed across a creek inlet in Versova portrayed unwarranted development and would not really resolve traffic issues. The court observed that the petitioners were not experts on the subject and had no authority to criticize the project of public importance in this way. Many of the problems faced in the city are not part of the public debate. The focus of the government on flood mitigation has predominantly been through hard engineering solutions such as concrete embankments along rivers, nalas, stormwater drains, and pumping stations. However, uh, this has resulted in the destruction of tidal marshes and mangrove ecosystems, and in some cases, shifted flooding elsewhere. The decision-making authorities such as MCs, HRMA, and courts, however, disregard any concerns, stating that the project is in the public interest.
Shweta,
Similarly,
we may have to wind.
okay, just all right, I could wind up just 1 or 2 slides. That's it. Is it okay? Or
Yeah.
okay. So sea walls to counter coastal erosion are also an attractive option, but yet they're ecologically detrimental because they affect these geomorphic processes. They are also proposed where there is actually no threat of erosion. The Coastal Zone Management Authority, however, does not hesitate to clear such projects because these are again guised under the garb of coastal erosion. Similarly, we have the issues of concretization of streams in RA, which again is all about freeing up surrounding land for construction rather than any kind of flood mitigation. One sees here how the boundaries of RA have shrunk over time. It is obvious that everyone that the real estate industry sets priorities for development in Mumbai. As opposed to regulating the sector, development authorities have become promoters and beneficiaries of real estate speculation, and ecosystems are seen as a hindrance to this potential or development. As the public sector has stepped back from its functions of regulating growth, what is called planning has come to mean mitigation measures or green infrastructure. If we are to be serious about environmental risks, we would need to take a systematic and comprehensive review of existing plans and projects. A city that is reclaiming the sea and creeks to build coastal freeways and that incentivizes indiscriminate development and conceives of land as an object of real estate speculation is not a city that is preparing. All right. Yeah, I'm kind of done.
Yeah. So thank you, Shweta. Basically, yes. So all these projects are essentially meant for citizens, meant clearly sold as solutions for people, for citizens to benefit. But clearly, when it comes to people, they don't want to hear the views of the people in all this project, and they don't want to factor in the opinions of the citizens in this project. So we're joined by Zoru Bhatena, citizen activist. Zoru is part of multiple citizens group and has been at the forefront of various um, groups, be it to save trees, open spaces, the Malabar Hills Gardens, the Mahalakshmi Race Course, the RA Forest, and so many other issues. Most recently, Zoru successfully led to the BMC to reverse its decision to build an underground parking lot on a public playground. Thank you for joining us, Zoru. Um, what is the sense that you get from citizens group about the various policies, projects that are being launched in the city? Has it really benefited them, and what do they actually mean for the people?
Well, Mumbai is, I think, a gold mine for everybody who rules over it. And therefore, any part of the city you go, I think you will just see digging, so they can reach that pot of gold. This is true for everything that happens in our city. Every project, every process is done, in my view, with the wrong view. Let's take a simple thing as public transport or transport. The government is spending 1 lakh crores on adding metros. It's spending more than 1 lakh crores on adding roads, but it won't spend 100 crores on adding BST buses. It won't spend any crores on improving the train services. And there is just nothing being looked into how to improve existing infrastructure. And the more infrastructure they build, the more problems they create. And the existing problems are not solved. So we as a city are just left with more and more problems at a huge cost. Mumbai has always been an extremely revenue positive city. I think our municipality is the only one who has money lying in the bank, which everybody is itching to spend. So for any solution, any project, huge amounts of money get spent. So everybody's focus is on how to do the biggest, most money spending project, because everybody earns out of it. If there's a simple solution, for example, let's take a road. I think the Mumbai roads are terrible. Every person, be it a politician or be it a bureaucrat, everybody comes and says, I'm going to make the road better. And the roads are just getting worse and worse. Let's go back 10, 15 years. A lot of the roads in Mumbai were paver block. It has its pros and cons. A lot of the roads in Mumbai are asphalt, tar roads. They have their pros and cons. But due to the faults in those roads, the government has now decided, let's concrete every road. But each and every concrete road which is being made in Mumbai is actually getting worse and worse and worse. It's not solving anything. You go on any of the major concrete roads in the suburbs, particularly Link Road, Andheri, Kurla Road. I mean, you just name it anywhere you go. It's worse than a asphalt road. It's worse, and it's horrible throughout the year. So people have realized that the more they are only focused on how much money they can spend. If you tell them you've got a pothole on an asphalt road, we can spend 5 lakh rupees and fix it, they will not do it. They will spend 5 crores and make the road afresh. And this is true. We are here because we are having elections. This is true for all political parties. It doesn't make a difference which party is in power. Everybody who is in power follows the same concept of maximum amount of money that can be spent. and any simple proposal to improve the city at a low cost is simply shunned because it is not worth the time and effort. Mumbai has a huge problem of flooding. Every time it rains heavily, and sometimes when there is a high tide at the same time, the city floods. It has been happening for decades and decades. The government has spent thousands and thousands and thousands of crores trying in the name of fixing it. And it has just been getting worse and worse. There was a heavy flood day, 2005, I think it was July, where Mumbai flooded with, there was over 1000 mm rainfall in a day, and Mumbai flooded. Few years later, Mumbai started flooding when there was 500 mm of rain. Today, Mumbai floods when there is 100 mm of rain. So everything that is being done to the city is only creating more and more problems. For example, even let us take roads. There is a, sorry, I don't remember the name of it. There is a traffic paradox, a study done many 50, 60 years ago, scientific study which shows that the more roads you create and the wider roads you make, you will create more traffic. You cannot solve traffic. Or the other way to look at it is you cannot solve traffic by widening the roads and increasing the roads. It only creates more traffic. And that is exactly what is happening in Mumbai. Each and every project which is being done is only making the situation worse and worse and worse. And we as Mumbaikars are all busy in our day-to-day lives, rushing or fighting to get to office, fighting to get back home, having no time to spare anywhere. So nobody has really the time or the energy to sit and speak up about this. And there are, every day as you go from home to office and back, you will find a dozen issues along the way on your way to work. How many things will people speak about? How many things will they fight to improve? And this is where our bureaucrats and our politicians are have made their system so good that it is just impossible for a normal citizen to speak up about a wrong or correct it. Be it a pothole on the road, be it a bus not coming on time, be it a train not coming on time. Sorry, can I take a few more minutes?
Yeah.
Just maybe
Just
2-3
more
minutes. Sure.
Yeah.
Let's take public transport. Mumbai has one of the best public transports in the railway lines, local railway lines. And over the years, the entire population of the city has shifted from the island city, from South Mumbai. The population has now moved to the north, to Virar, Dahisar, Navi Mumbai, Panvel, etc. But our rail system still works as if Churchgate and CST station are the most crowded places in the city. Give an example that supposing we are standing at Andheri station, you will get one fast train and one slow train every 3 minutes to go to Churchgate. But if I want to go to Virar, I have to wait 15 minutes. The crowd is going the other direction, and the empty trains are not empty, less crowded trains are going in the wrong direction. These are simple things that can be corrected. The train should go in the direction of where passengers travel, not as per some historical system. And that these simple things are not being done. They don't cost anything. But if you tell them, let's build 2 more tracks and solve the problem, they will spend 10 years to make 2 more tracks, but they won't spend 10 minutes to change the direction of trains into the direction of where people travel. Another big problem in Mumbai local trains is the AC train. Very nice, very good, very helpful for travel. But by taking away one non-AC local and adding an AC local is creating chaos to the public who travel. You want to add AC trains, add it as an additional service, not by reducing an existing deficient service. And this is the issues which plague our city. With everything is being done with, in my view, the wrong intention. Intention is how to make a show, how to make mega projects of mega money and also make a mega cut out of it. Nothing is being done to improve the lives of the people, of the public.
Thank you, Zoru. It's basically what people are asking and what people are getting are two different things. And there seems to be a disconnect between what the authorities claim the people want and what the people actually want. And so in the wake of this background, we just look at the forthcoming elections and what do this, in this kind of mistrust or distrust, the lack of communication between the people and the government. What does this mean for how will this play out in the forthcoming elections? We are joined in by Sahil Joshi. Sahil is the managing editor Mumbai at the TV Today network. He's been covering Mumbai and the Western region for over 2 decades. And he's with us to share his perspective about how does the 2024 state elections look from here, and what are the various issues at play here, and how is it different from earlier elections, particularly from the lens of Mumbai?
Well, thank you, Hepzi. It's very interesting. I was listening to both the presentations, and I recall that in 1999, when I started working as a reporter in Mumbai, my first story was about the 55 flyovers, and that was kind of that time Shiv Sena BJP's flagship kind of a project, and their campaign line that what they have given to Mumbai is that the 55 flyovers they are building. And I remember doing a story with I don't remember the name, but the transport expert who was also a former general manager of the BEST, and he had predicted then that these flyovers are not going to add anything; they are going to just add the traffic to the city. What we actually need is a betterment of the public transport, and look at what we are talking today. It's exactly the same. The prediction he had made in 1999 has absolutely come true. And most importantly, even then, the projects were being pushed by the MSRDC minister, the Maharashtra State Road Development Corporation minister, who was not even from Mumbai. He is from a city like Nagpur, which is now even Nagpur has a metro. So it's very interesting the way the politics plays up, and the political parties look at the infrastructure projects. They look at infrastructure projects as a development, whereas nobody is looking at. I mean, I'm really surprised that nobody spoke about absence of the BMC since last more than 4 years in Mumbai. There are no corporators. There is not even a public movement in Mumbai at this point of time. None of the political party is going on ground and demanding that there needs to be a local self-government election, the Mumbai Municipal Corporation election. That is something which is really interesting. I mean, either it is complete public apathy, or there is a complete disconnect with the Mumbai Municipal Corporation, or it doesn't matter if there is no local corporator, because I remember that the local corporators used to understand the nerves of Mumbai, and they used to be on the ground whenever it is required. But yeah, I mean, I also do agree that the standing committee in BMC is almost like an understanding committee. But let's come to the politics of Mumbai at this point of time. So I'll speak in 3 parts. The brief which I've been asked to speak about. The 3 parts being that the first thing is the situation right now. What we are looking at. As I said, that there is no BMC existing. So if there is a public anger, what we saw in the Lok Sabha elections, that the Mahavikas Aghadi was he did better. Mahavikas Aghadi got 4 seats, and the Mahayuti, the Shiv Sena BJP, got 2 seats, which is which is fall from what they have been winning since 2014 and 19. But the interesting part here, what we should look at is that the decrease in the influence of the BJP in Mumbai. In 2014, riding on this narrative of Vikas, the development, the BJP did extremely well in Mumbai. And, BJP has always been a number 2 partner to Shiv Sena. The Shiv Sena was a dominant partner. BJP was almost like a supporting partner to Shiv Sena. They had their own pockets. BJP always had their own pockets, and they were surviving on those pockets. But in Lok Sabha elections, they used to do well because the Shiv Sena was with them. But in 2014, they proved that the change in the demography of Mumbai has benefited BJP a lot. So if you look at the vote share of the BJP in 2014 and 19 Lok Sabha elections, 2014 it was almost 50%, and whereas it dropped down to 48% in 2019. But you look at the 2024, the BJP's vote share has drastically gone down to 28.3%, and the Congress vote share has marginally increased. But despite the split in Shiv Sena, Uddhav Thackeray has managed to keep his vote share to 31%. So at this point of time, Shiv Sena UBT, we can say that is the number 1 party. Now, if you look at the absolute numbers in the votes at this point of time in Lok Sabha, if you talk about the Lok Sabha elections, the BJP claims that the Shiv Sena BJP combined, even if they have got only 2 seats, they have managed to get more number of votes. But if you look at the numbers, you can see that those numbers have come from specific constituencies. So even today, if you look at the assembly, BJP is very confident, or it will definitely win at least 6 seats in Mumbai, merely because of the demography. It's like the seats from the North Mumbai, like Borivali, then Charkop and Kandivali East, which is predominantly Marathi, Gujarati, the high, not middle class, but higher middle class Marathi and Gujarati combined with the Rajasthani population. A stronghold has become a stronghold of the BJP. Similarly, Mulund, another constituency where there is a highly Gujarati population, which is in favor of the BJP. Ghatkopar East or the Ghatkopar West constituencies as well. Normally, what we have seen is that if you look at the demography, the studies show that there are 37% Marathi population, the voters in Mumbai. North Indians are 17%. The Gujarati and Rajasthani combined is almost 14%, and the South Indians are almost 8%, and the Muslims are 19 to 21%. The Christians are 3%, and other communities 2%. Now, what happens is that various polls have shown that the Marathi population, out of 37%, almost 65 to 70% Marathi voters go to Shiv Sena, whereas the North Indians and the Gujarati Rajasthanis, exactly the opposite trend. The 65 to 70% votes go to the BJP. There was a time when the North Indians or the Gujaratis used to also vote for the Congress, but that percentage has gone down. And predominantly Muslims, since 2014, they have been voting for the Congress, almost 60 to 70%, but there are other claimants as well. But normally they in block vote for the Congress. Now, what happened in the Lok Sabha is that, for the first time, the interesting combination emerged, and it is actually unthought of, like what I call it a Mamu combination, like Marathi and Muslim. So the 37% of the Marathi population, which is dominant in almost 5 constituencies, 5 Lok Sabha constituencies in Mumbai. So almost 25 to 27 assembly segments in Mumbai, allied with the Muslim votes, and the Muslims in block voted for the Shiv Sena. That was completely unheard of, and that is where the BJP's problem lies. The BJP has done much better after 2014, have crossed 15 seats mark. It is still the number 1 party in Mumbai at this point of time, if you look at the assembly numbers. But their vote share has decreased, and the supporting base which they used to get from the Shiv Sena is not there. The Mumbai trends clearly show that Eknath Shinde doesn't have the kind of pull which combined Shiv Sena had. So he can manage to get 4 to 5% vote share from the original Shiv Sena, but it's still not sufficient for the BJP to come back with the same numbers in the upcoming assembly elections. So for Shiv Sena, it is very important to keep running this combination of Marathi and Muslims. So what we are seeing at this point of time, that this the Mahavikas Aghadi, the seat distribution in Mumbai will be dominated by Shiv Sena, but also that Congress will get good number of seats in this seat distribution. Like Shiv Sena is going to contest almost 20 seats. Congress is going to contest almost 12 seats, and Sharad Pawar's NCP will get 2 seats, and one or two might go to Samajwadi Party. So that is yet to be finalized. But this is broadly is going to be the seat distribution among Mahavikas Aghadi. And similarly, if you look at the Mahayuti, the BJP is going to be the dominant partner. So there are places where if there is going to be a fight between the Shiv Sena UBT and BJP, which I don't think will be in much of the places, because predominantly Shiv Sena and the BJP have been fighting the elections together. So they have never fought against each other, barring municipal corporation elections or the last Lok Sabha election. So even in the assembly segments, there is a little chance that BJP and Shiv Sena will cross each other's path. But we will see a lot of fights between the Shiv Sena UBT and Shiv Sena Eknath Shinde Shiv Sena. So it all will depend on how much the BJP is able to transfer its vote to Eknath Shinde's candidate, and also how many votes Eknath Shinde can get on his own. Another interesting statistics from Mumbai is that if you look at the overall tally of Shiv Sena, which clearly underlines the importance of Mumbai's share in the political party like Shiv Sena. Shiv Sena's overall seats, Shiv Sena gets almost 1/4 of its seats from Mumbai. So if they go down in Mumbai, I'm talking about Uddhav Thackeray Shiv Sena, if they go down in Mumbai, their overall tally goes down. Similarly, for BJP, they get 1/3 of their seats from Vidarbha. So in the scheme of things, Mumbai is not very important for BJP's tally. Whereas from Shiv Sena's side, the UBT side, it is going to be really important. So their performance in Mumbai is going to be the key. But if you come to the issues which will be discussed during the assembly elections, I mean, I would hardly see any of the issues which will be discussed the way we had presented today, because both the sides are claiming the credit for the development in Mumbai. Like Eknath Shinde and the BJP are claiming.
Do you think the massive infrastructure development will help ruling parties to get vote? Will that get them the votes?
Well, interestingly, the way the demography of Mumbai has changed, there is with the changing demography, there is very little understanding of what exactly the development is. What we are talking in the groups like this hardly reach to the people. For them, it's very important to have a coastal road. For them, it is very important to have a thing like metro, because a lot of the upper middle class or the higher middle class population have started going abroad. They are seeing the metro construction in cities like London or maybe in Singapore or Hong Kong.
Aspirational.
The aspirational class in Mumbai is growing. So for them, and Mumbai has always been a city of aspiration. So for them, it is definitely a development.
Will that translate into votes?
No. This is going to be really interesting, because, as I said, I told you the different communities vote share in Mumbai, right? So everybody votes differently. Another interesting thing which is going to come up again in this election. I mean, it's not being propagated by the ruling parties yet. I'm really surprised why they are not doing it. But if you remember 1995. The Shiv Sena slogan in Mumbai was "Jhopadpatti Vasiyana Phukad Ghare." That was the time when, for the first time, Shiv Sena chief Bal Thackeray announced the scheme for redevelopment of the slums and free housing to the slum dwellers. To extend that scheme, the Chief Minister Eknath Shinde has also promised a redevelopment of the cluster developments, basically of Ramabai Ambedkar Nagar or various other projects, and he has already asked the Dharavi project, and that will be really interesting to see that for the first time the Shiv Sena has gone completely against some kind of a redevelopment project, and that is also by a major corporation which has a lot of stakes in politics at this point of time, if we can call it. So for the first time, Shiv Sena has taken a clear stand that they will not allow that Dharavi to be redeveloped by Adanis. This will also be very interesting to see that how people think.
But they've just said they're going to review it. They're not saying that Adani.
No, they have clearly said that they will scrap the project. They will scrap the tender given to Adani. So there will be a review. I'm sure that there will be somebody else who will be taking up the project. I'm sure of that. But interestingly, I see little. The change in Mumbai is that I see. This is very interesting that when the government decided to settle the what we call apatra, I mean the people who have
ineligible
people from Dharavi in the area like Mulund. There was a resistance from Devnar, now Devnar, but earlier it was Mulund. So there was a resistance from a lot of political parties, and it became a kind of a local issue that we will not allow the Dharavi settlers to come to Mulund. Now it is Devnar. Okay, so there is a little that is also going to be very interesting. So sub-local politics within Mumbai will also play a very interesting part in these elections. But
do you see all political parties having different views towards infrastructure? I mean, or when it comes to infrastructure, they all are same. When they come to power, they say one thing. When they're out of power, they say one thing.
I think they're all the same. But it is very interesting that I was really surprised when Aditya Thackeray actually pursued the metro car shed campaign, RA campaign, and he opposed it, and he saw to it that even when their government will come to power, they scrapped the car shed in RA colony, and they decided to build it somewhere else, and the whole thing followed, and there is a lot of politics involved in that as well, but they decided to follow it up. I haven't heard anybody taking up the environmental issues, even though the coastal project, which we were just hearing, is their baby.
The same thing. The coastal road is also being proposed by them.
Exactly. So there is we will say that there are two sides always, and it's very interesting to see that on one way they wanted, because they know that the aspirant class in Mumbai wants to see such kind of projects, so they cannot turn their back on them. But on the other hand, they also understand that the new generation in Mumbai, they think about the things like environment and other things, and that's why they are also sticking to things like that. So it is a very weird combination. It is exactly like the way we are seeing in Lok Sabha that Marathi and Muslims came together and voted for Mahavikas Aghadi. Similarly, these two faces of Shiv Sena is also very interesting to see. But it is going to be a very long battle, if we have to take up these issues, because I think that the Mumbai has gone out of hand. Yeah, because it's the mere speed of the redevelopment projects. If you see, every day there is one new building popping up, and nobody's basically the political class became rich after Mumbai's land started getting money. They understood that it's a gold. All these development, almost 60 to 70% of the political class in Mumbai is either a developer or who is working for the developer. Gone are the days when the municipal corporators used to be from middle class families. They used to travel by local trains. Till at 90s, suddenly everybody started having a palatial houses in some 30, 40 floor, the towers.
At this point, I just wanted to get in Shweta. Shweta, there is a question for you. The fisher folk have been protesting about their rights, about being affected by the coastal road. You think, affected people or affected communities, will they make an impact in the political processes, and how will that, play out? We can't hear you.
Yeah, so I think I gave the example of the Worli fishers, and they, in fact, Aditya Thackeray was not.
But then there is going to be Dharavi. There is multiple communities which are impacted.
Right. So when in case of the Worli fishers, when they approached Aditya Thackeray, he was refusing to respond to their he didn't even come and meet them, although it was his constituency, and they had been appealing to them for many years, even since 2019. Uddhav, Aditya, they never came to meet the fisher folk. They would go to Worli, they would meet the other residents in the Kolivada, they used to meet the Worli Walkers Association, but they never came and met the two societies who are actually fishing and never addressed their issues. So when it came to this point where the situation was not being solved, the fisher folk took strategic advantage of the situation and went to Eknath Shinde. Eknath Shinde also exploited the situation, and he then posed as being representing the masses and the fisher folk and the working classes. And in one rally in Worli, he kind of said that I solved this issue, and he characterized the Shiv Sena as a party which represents the middle class or the elite in Worli. Aditya was also the environment minister, so I think when we look at how he approached RA, and he appealed to the RA conservation movement and gave them the reserve forest in RA or protected certain parts of RA, but somehow he was not really acknowledging the needs of the fisher folk. So I would also like to say that it is localized. The fisher folk also have specific requirements. They approach politicians to make sure that their issues get solved, but it's not necessarily going to have a larger impact, because it's again like for instance, for the MSRDC ceiling, they have approached Ashish Shelar, and it is always strategically that they approach certain members. In Vadhavan, they are, in fact, I think Aditya and Uddhav are supporting, are supporting the fisher folk there. So I don't think there is any clear kind of agenda that any party has, or, vis-a-vis these projects. And it is the situation that gets exploited by the communities as well as the politicians.
No, it is very interesting, actually. If I can just add two lines. It's very interesting that the Shiv Sena was at the forefront to oppose the Jaitapur project, then the Nanar project, and all these projects were opposed because of the opposition by the localites. But whereas that didn't happen in the case of the Worli fishermen, because finally they will also calculate the electoral impact. Any political party, for that matter, will calculate an electoral impact of that, and accordingly they will take a decision. So when it comes to the coastal road, they are already selling it as a development project for rest of the Mumbai. The people who already have the cars, who are already staying in towers or in the flats and all that stuff. So and they want to exploit the votes of these demographies because they think that they are already voting for the BJP. So they want to strengthen their position in these areas. So that's why there they will not take the opposition very seriously. But whereas in the Nanar or in Jaitapur, they opposed it to the tooth and nail. They did not allow the Nanar project to happen or the Jaitapur project to happen. So that is always going to be the case.
So there is a question related from Nirupama, who says, what the Shiv Sena's opposition to RA a case of political opportunism rather than just any interest, because it was something that an attack on something that Fadnavis or BJP was pushing.
Well, I don't know how to put it in what way I should put it, because I don't know. There are many takers as voters at this point of time on the issues like environment. If you talk about the real politics, right? I mean, I'm sure I'm totally for the environment issues, but I can be very sure that there are no takers for these issues. So taking up those issues is really interesting. Now, what has happened is that because of their stand on RA, they are being portrayed by the BJP and Eknath Shinde as somebody who stalled the projects and stalled the metro project. So they are now clarifying their stand at why did they oppose it, and it was not basically to stall the project. Look, we built the coastal road. How can you call us somebody who were trying to stall the development project? So it's very difficult to understand whether they actually were trying to oppose it because of Devendra Fadnavis, or was it a real opposition? But I think it was a real opposition. It was specifically with respect to RA Colony. It was specifically with respect to that green zone. And they followed it through.
There's also a question for you from Alka, who says, have you, you've witnessed many social movements that have shaped Mumbai's politics and development. Do you think that voice is weakened now, or is the protest not imaginative enough?
Well, absolutely. I mean, that voice is completely weakened. I mean, I remember that the Mumbai's middle class has become aspirational, but it has become completely apolitical. You know, it's like they will come on the road uh, for some things happening in, say, maybe in Delhi or something else, but not on the civic issues, which used to be the case earlier. The backbone of any political movement in Mumbai used to be the middle class, and that's what Mumbai was known for. The trade union, be it a trade union movement, be it any movement, any political movement, the middle class used to be on the ground, and that is what we are seeing that it's losing. It's becoming more and more selfish. It is more living in ghettos. This social interaction has completely stopped. If you see, even the schools, there are schools for people who have a lot of money. I mean, the completely upper class. Then there are schools which can be afforded by the higher middle class, and there are schools which cannot, which are for the lower middle class, and everyone goes in different schools. That is not used to be the case earlier. So this has completely changed, and that is what is shaping the Mumbai's political landscape as well.
There's a question from Kalpana for Zoru or Shweta. Basically, more than a decade ago, different groups concerned about urban issues formed broad coalitions and tried to intervene at the level of planning and decision making. For example, cities development plan, we don't see that kind of mobilization anymore. Citizens groups are taking up issues in their own specific area, in their own backyard, so to say, but few are addressing the overall direction of the city. What do you think needs to be done to bring back this kind of collaboration, sorry?
Yeah, so I think, as Kalpana pointed out during the development plan campaign, like when the development plan was out and, out for suggestions and objections, that time a lot of citizens groups had come together, and there was a coalition that had, of a sort, that had formed in the city, and they were making collective demands to the BMC, to get certain changes made to the plan. However, at that time, the BMC kind of tackled this by scrapping the plan, and then it also made an attempt to break up the coalition. They would call the different groups separately and kind of meet with them, also offer them certain projects. So I think that since then, this collective effort has not happened. Another issue with this is that many of these movements or many of these organizations who are contesting projects or taking up issues are also NGOs, and then they tend to be more competitive rather than collaborative in their efforts. And I think that is one of the issues. I think earlier when we had this kind of mass civil society organizations, it was also grassroots and ground level organizations who were already organized, who would then collectivize. These organizations are also, those kind of movements like the housing rights movements, etc. Those also seem to be fragmenting. So it's very difficult in a way to see that kind of coalition. But I agree with Kalpana that kind of organization is important if one needs to make any change at least in terms of policy or demand any changes in terms
Zoru, how do you see the scenario?
Well, I don't really have any historical background beyond maybe 10 years that I'm in this. But as I see it today, be it a simple thing like an ALM in a residential area, that ALM is today controlled by the local politician. And that ALM does and supports only what the politician wants. So the people's voice of correcting something is now controlled by the politician in most of the places. So this is how. There is no independent voice left. That's how I look at it.
Okay. There is a question for Sahil. Is the traditional Sena vote bank still with Uddhav? Has Shinde managed to make inroads with his Ladki schemes and redevelopment?
Predominantly the traditional, it's very interesting. A lot of studies have happened after the Lok Sabha polls. What we are seeing right now is that when it came to Sharad Pawar versus Ajit Pawar, there was a clear winner emerged between them. It was basically Sharad Pawar. But whereas between Uddhav Thackeray and Eknath Shinde, there is no clear winner. Still, even today. What has happened with Shiv Sena is that Shiv Sena originally was not a political party. It was more like an organization. It became a political party in 90s. And after becoming a political party, it has started behaving like a political party. It developed people who started ruling those particular constituencies. So the top leadership did not look beyond that particular leader. So now what has happened is that whole class of the political leaders have been taken away by Eknath Shinde. So there is a big dent. So in Sena versus Uddhav Thackeray, in some places there is 70% people have. The cadre has remained with Uddhav Thackeray. In some places, 60% cadre has remained with Uddhav Thackeray. Like if you go to Thane and those areas, it is Eknath Shinde. If you come to Mumbai, 60 to 70% are with Uddhav Thackeray, but there is no leadership with him at this point of time. So it's like almost he will have to rebuild the organization in this election. So there is no clear winner. I think assembly will decide a lot of things, and that's why for Uddhav Thackeray assembly elections will decide a lot of things. So for Uddhav Thackeray, it is very important.
When you say a lot of things, you mean who will emerge as the winner in terms of?
So basically, why Eknath Shinde has emerged as a biggest challenge for Uddhav Thackeray is basically because he became the chief minister. So chief minister is a very powerful position. This kind of challenge they had never faced. Like earlier, Chhagan Bhujbal became a minister, or Narayan Rane joined Congress and became a minister. Whereas this time, their name, symbol, their identity was taken away by Eknath Shinde. He also became a chief minister, so he more or less controlled the whole administration. He controlled the BMC, he controlled the Thane Municipal Corporation, he controlled the police, he controlled everything. So that became a biggest challenge for Uddhav Thackeray. So after the assembly elections, to survive, Eknath Shinde has to become chief minister. Otherwise, it will be difficult for him to sustain the political party. Whereas for Uddhav Thackeray, of course, for him also, it will be important to become a chief minister, but at least to come to power with Congress and NCP so that his party can survive. So this election is going to be really interesting. And for that, Mumbai is going to be really important for Uddhav Thackeray, because almost 1/4 of the seats which they get in Maharashtra comes from Mumbai. So he'll have to retain his seats, the numbers in Mumbai by hook or crook, actually.
Yeah, actually, that I'm glad we're winding up on this important point, why Mumbai is important, and Mumbai is kind of relevant, significant, not just for the politicians, but also for us. And I hope they take up the issues which are important for us, when our issues don't get lost in all this cacophony of elections. Thanks to our panelists for joining us and sharing your views about our city, which we all feel so strongly about. This is hoping that our women journalists, our attendants, may find all this very insightful and help us understand our city and this election in a much better light. Thanks for joining, all of you, and look forward to seeing you all in the next session ahead. Do share your views and feedback with us on our WhatsApp group. And thanks to the panelists, Sahil, Zoru, Shweta, thank you for giving your time and your insights on this issue. Thank you.